Hello, this is Jonna, and I'm here with a mysterious story for Halloween that has a few moments that might make you jump. At any rate, I hope you will be intrigued by this story of a very peculiar flight from London to New York. And I'm delighted to dedicate this story to Franklin, whose family supports Storynori on Patreon. The Strangest Flight. Too late, said Daphne, the woman from the airline at the departure gate. You've missed it. What? No, pleaded Dad. But I can see the plane through the door. It's waiting just outside on the runway. He panted. The rules are the rules, she replied, looking at the clock. You were 25 seconds late. The gate is closed, sir. She began to pick up her iPad and glasses off the desk and place them in her bag.
Dad, I told you to get moving when we were in duty-free,
complained Savannah, his 14-year-old daughter. Well, when's the next flight? Asked Dad. Same time tomorrow. The rebooking fee for each ticket is £175. Outrageous, exclaimed Dad. 700 quid for printing 4 tickets off a machine? Well, I hope you picked up a bargain in duty-free, said Daphne, glancing up from her desk with a little smile. Past Dad's shoulder, she noticed the face of the woman standing behind him. She examined her features for a moment. A little smile appeared around her lips. Then she said, Say, weren't you in that series? What's it called? Me mum loves it. She still watches the repeats every afternoon on channel 98. You know, it's called, Love Will Strike You Dead. That's the one. You were the daughter, surely. Well, it was made a long time ago, I suppose. Yes, I was younger then. Weren't we all? Well, Mrs. She glanced at the name on the passport and then at the date of birth. Mrs. Petrovsky? Oh my, it's your birthday. Congratulations. You were born on Halloween? That must mean you're a real sweetie. What a vitch, said Mum with a wink. I'll call the captain and let him know we have 4 late arrivals. 1 moment, please. Mum smiled graciously. She hadn't acted for TV in over 16 years, but it was helpful that traces of her celebrity lingered on and could still win her favours from fans of old soaps. They don't make shows like that these days, said Daphne, the airline woman, still smiling. Here's your tickets. I'll just escort you to the steps. No need to run, but we had better get a move on. They soon received a much warmer reception. The air stewardess who greeted them at the top of the aircraft stairs smiled with perfectly pearly white teeth and bright red lipstick. She was wearing a pair of red devil's horns. Well, it was Halloween after all. Hello, welcome aboard. I do hope you enjoy your flight. Trick or treat, called out Gabriel, who was Savannah's 9-year-old brother. She was ready for that and handed him a basket of sweets. He took a handful. Thanks, I like this airline, he said. But the best was yet to come. The interior of the aircraft was like no other the family had flown on before. Instead of hundreds of seats squished together in rows, there was a long corridor with doors off to the sides. An air steward who was dressed in pristine white sailor suit said,
Your cabin is number 24. Let me take your bag, madam.
He followed them along the corridor, and when they reached cabin 24, he showed them in. There were 4 comfy-looking seats, not at all squished together, but arranged around a little mahogany table. Their suitcases were waiting for them on 2 leather racks. A short flight of stairs led them up to the sleeping compartment on the upper deck, with 4 real beds made up with luxurious sheets and pillows. And naturally, they had their own washroom and lavatory en suite. Is this an aircraft or a ship? Asked Mum, somewhat baffled.
We like to think of it as a luxury cruise liner with wings,
Answered the steward. Wow! Squealed Gabriel, who was looking out of the window. The wings are huge and they've got propellers,
Let me see.
butted in Savannah, pushing her brother aside.
Gosh, it's big all right, but extremely old-fashioned, like out of a black and white movie. Are you sure this contraption can fly, Dad?
Dad shrugged his shoulders. I really wasn't expecting this, he said. Mum put her arm around him. Well, it's a gorgeous surprise, darling, she told him. Even if it doesn't fly, I don't mind staying here for the whole holiday. Smell these roses. And there's a bottle of bubbly on ice. This is going to be luxury,
If you're ready, I'll show you the rest of the aircraft.
said the steward. They wandered further down the corridor to a part of the plane that opened up into a dining room for about 30 people. It was illuminated by a large crystal chandelier and pumpkin jack-o'-lanterns on each table,
Dinner will be served once we're on our way.
said the steward.
I can book your sitting now if you like. Would you like 8:30 suit you?
Savannah, by now, assumed that they were really staying in a hotel that looked like a plane. This talk of going anywhere was a kind of fiction, but there was no way the whole thing could take off the ground, in her view. They continued on their tour of the long tube,
And in this area
said the steward, showing them a bar and comfy sofas.
is the cocktail lounge. Drinks will be served at any time other than takeoff and landing.
And finally, when they had passed through the cocktail lounge, they came to a cinema with seats.
Later on, we will be showing a cartoon, followed by a movie entitled The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm told that it's not for the faint-hearted, but it is Halloween after all.
They returned to their cabin and sat down in the deep chairs. This is the strangest hotel ever, said Gabriel. It's quite a surprise, said Mum. And it's all very nice, but I haven't seen a bathtub or a shower yet. Who ever heard of an aeroplane with a bathtub? Asked Dad with a smile. Savannah thought he must be kidding them. He had promised the family a trip to New York for Mum's 40th birthday. But instead he had booked them into this weird hotel that looked like an aeroplane.
Dad, you cheapskate.
She said.
Were the plane tickets too expensive?
No, honestly, said Dad, throwing up his hands. I did book us flights to New York. I wasn't expecting anything like this. I'm as curious to see what happens next as you are. A smooth voice came over the loudspeaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your pilot, Captain James Cook, and I'd like to welcome you aboard this magnificent Bristol Brabazon. We're just waiting for clearance from Control Tower, and I expect we shall be taking off from London Airport in approximately 15 minutes. Our flight to New York will take just over 14 hours, and we hope you will enjoy every moment. And may I take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy Halloween.
Oh, it is exciting, said Mum. A birthday mystery just for me. But I don't think this thing can fly. If there was such a thing as Flying Hotel, I think we would have heard of it, don't you? It's like the Titanic, only with wings, said Gabriel. We've been learning about it at school. It was a huge ship that people said could never sink. Even though it was really, really heavy, and then it went and hit an iceberg,
Oh, do shut up.
muttered Savannah. A waiter came in and poured champagne for Mum and Dad, and fruit cocktails for the kids.
Would you care for caviar?
He asked. Rather, said Dad. Soon the waiter brought a silver plate of little pancakes called blini and another silver bowl containing shiny black eggs of beluga caviar. "Ugh!" exclaimed Gabriel. "This is yuck!" "All the more for us, then," replied Mum greedily, while wiping a little piece of caviar from her lip using a starched white napkin. The steward knocked on the door.
Sorry to bother you,
He said softly.
but the captain is requesting that everybody fasten their seatbelts as we shall soon be taking off.
Thank you so much, said Mum, glancing down to find the seatbelt which she had not noticed before.
And by the way, the life jackets, which of course we hope you won't be needing, are in the bottom of the cupboard with the mirror.
Said the steward.
That's all I have to tell you about safety. Enjoy your flight and just ring the bell anytime you need anything.
When he had gone, Gabriel asked, Is he joking or are we really going to fly? We'll soon find out, said Dad. Another 10 minutes passed before the propeller spluttered into action and the aircraft taxied along the runway,
Wow!
said Savannah.
It feels like we are really moving.
She had to raise her voice because the engines were rather loud. Hey, look, said Gabriel. All the other planes at this airport are kind of weird. Isn't that one a Spitfire? Asked Dad. Mum was looking blankly ahead of her. She wasn't a good flyer at the best of times. Dad held her hand. She said quietly to him, Tell me this isn't real. Honestly, said Dad. I've no idea. The enormous plane paused at the top of the main runway for a moment, before moving off and starting to pick up speed. The walls of their cabin began to shake, and the glass in the cupboards jangled. Savannah gripped the arms of her chair. She thought,
This game is very realistic, but there's no way this huge hulking thing can take off, is there?
but it did. A few moments later, there was a tremendous judder. Savannah felt like she had left her stomach on the ground. She closed her eyes.
We're gonna die.
She thought. She felt the aircraft tilt sideways as it changed course in the sky above London. It wasn't long before the steward's voice came over the loudspeaker and said,
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now safely on our way. Captain Cook has advised us that you can loosen your seatbelts. Our first sitting for dinner will be starting shortly, and the cocktail lounge is now serving drinks. Our programme of movies will be commencing in the cinema in approximately 15 minutes.
Let's go and see the cartoon, said Gabriel. Savannah, can you take him? Said Mum. I'm feeling a bit queasy. This simulation is very convincing. Savannah thought a cartoon might take her mind off her nervous thoughts. She and Gabriel went back along the corridor towards the dining hall. There were half a dozen other passengers heading the same way,
Wow, they're really dressed up.
said Savannah. A lady in a shimmering green evening gown was walking arm in arm with a gentleman in a dark suit. Some had the most elaborate hairstyles full of thick curls. When they reached the dining hall, they saw that the other passengers were no less elegant. Halloween masks had been placed beside every plate, and the passengers were trying them on. The waiters and waitresses were dressed in black capes with a scarlet lining, and some of them had ghoulish makeup to make them look like zombies or a witch's cat,
We had better go back and warn Mum and Dad.
said Savannah.
She'll die of shame if she wears her jeans to dinner.
They ran back to the cabin and told Mum and Dad what they'd seen. Well, thank goodness they gave us our luggage, said Mum. Dad had warned her that they would be going to a fancy restaurant to celebrate her birthday in New York, so thankfully she had packed her little black dress. The family went to dinner dressed smartly, but not as smart as the other guests who were up to the nines, as Mum called it. They took the place around the table, which was laid out with silver cutlery, pristine cloth and starched napkins. A waitress